Excellent. Thanks for that, guys. Well, as you said, any questions from the floor? Got 5 minutes or so.
Have you got any construction case studies on the website?
Not on ours at the moment. I'll give you a link to somewhere else that's already sat. They're the best ones.
Are they the sort of general lean?
There's loads of others that they'll copy stuff that's on these small websites and produce their own website, but we don't see the point of doing that. A lot of my time these days is taking up doing 3D and 4D, where you take the drawings, put it into 3D, but then you put the program to it. So it's very good at auditing programs. You see the roof going on in a little video before the walls are up, you know you've got something wrong.
There seems to be like a bit of tension between the lean theory of trying to keep the plan simple, and flexible and reactive. How do you marry that with a project program if you're saying it's 5,000 items? They seem mutually.
You can, I mean, a lot of the time we still keep the detail there, but it's hidden. So it's for the guy actually driving the machine, and you just see a high-level program of 20 or 30 activities.
Using more key critical success factors rather than program.
Yeah, when we do the program we've got at the moment, so basically what we're setting is windows for certain activities. And it's when you start to look into those windows, then you look at 3 months looking ahead, 6 weeks looking ahead. And very often, the guys doing a very detailed program don't, and it sounds a bit strange, but they don't fully understand what it needs to do a certain task. So they put down their idea of how they're going to get there, but the guys that actually do the work, they're the guys that really need to drive it. And that's one of the things that we had on T5 was, it wasn't the programming wasn't a top-down thing, it was a bottom-up. We said we needed to start this then and finish it then, and we gave them the windows. How they actually achieve it is down to the guys actually doing the work.
But that's true in any sense. I mean, the reason that Nelson won the Battle of Trafalgar when he did is because of the way he managed his fleet. He told all his fleet commanders or his admirals the end task and sent them away to determine how they were going to achieve it. He didn't say, this is what you're going to do, this is how you're going to do it. So the reason why we worked with the Spanish and the French and the Australian was because that panel was there, and the decisions were made on the ground with the people there, and collectively they achieved the mission.
One of the reasons I got into the 3D and 4D modelling, if I give an A3 Primavera program 22 pages to a performer, just sits in the drawer and does what he wants. Sitting down, did a model for T5, which was 18 months work, about 4 million pounds of work. The video was about 3.5 minutes long. It just gave them the overview and how we progressed.
If I can give a small example, when I went to Ireland, we were doing photo residential units for the local authority, and I looked at the contract programme, and it was 10 sheets of AO, and I couldn't read it. There were 12,000 activities. Absolute rubbish. You know, and I went to the site team and I said, you know, where's the programme on the wall? There wasn't one. So, well, how do you follow the programme? Well, we know. And that's constantly, this site was being criticised because they weren't doing this, they weren't, you know. And when we went to them, they were just going blind because the programme was so detailed and so prescriptive, but it didn't represent what they're actually doing, that they just forgot it. It's to one side. But the planner back in head office, who was looking at the 3-4 contract, he'd spend two days a week on this job, and the best way I could describe him was probably a planning freak. He was just absolutely down to the, you know, totally useless to the organisation. You know, I mean, it's lift it back up, lift it up, get out of the detail, back to what really matters. And that's key to it all, is, as you say, one goal at the end is to finish a job by this date. The client dictates the goal and says, this is what's important to me. You all buy into that, and you have to achieve it. A lot of the times I spent on T5 was with supply chain. You have to get them brought into it, and you need to be able to say to them, you know, rather than us create a stock on site, so we need to, can you deliver in 1 day? There's no reason why they can't deliver in 1 day. But you have to get them to buy into that, commit to that. There were some things on T5 we did do, like the marketplace. Boots, the gloves, the glasses. They have stores on site, but even so, they were topped up.
They were topped up daily.
Okay. You mentioned Terminal 5 keeps going up. Lots of radical things have been going on in Terminal 5. BAA have changed their policy quite radically since then. A new owner, is that the fundamental problem? Is it what was happening at BAA, if it continued, was going to continue to yield a lot more benefits?
I think it would. Yeah, I think this latest one that I'm working on now, the change in procurement is a big issue. And I think the reason T5 comes up a lot is that T5 was always set up that it was going to get into its lead. And the contract itself, the T5 agreement, was one of the better word, cost plus. The client was paying directly for the SPS guy from America. They were first tier suppliers. So they engaged them along with Mace, along with Lang and Rose, and the rest of AMAC and the rest of them. They were all first tier suppliers, and they were direct to the client. So the client was paying for it. The client held all the risk. It was a very different project. And I think that's why it gets mentioned a lot, is because there it was quite easy to investigate this, to try this. We weren't penalised trying it. And I think one of the reasons it's sort of taking its time is it is a leap of faith. It's a huge risk for construction companies to suddenly go into this and then potentially make big mistakes. They're not prepared to do it. And it's unfortunate, but I think it's going to have to come in.
That's because most of the mistakes are made in the hidden.
Yeah.
You don't realise they're still making mistakes and never tell them about it because you're behind your pocket.
I've seen the key to this as being left with clients.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it was risk was all with the client. It was all about transparency of the procurement arrangements and transparency of the organisations and so on through, as I understand it.
Culture is just completely different. I don't mean the everyday culture, the business culture is completely different.
Okay, for risk of blowing our brain for today, which is fairly tough, we need to push on. It was really no coincidence that I asked Nigel and Dave to come today to talk about lean construction. It's something which is extremely topical. Those of us that lead to the highways agencies, conferences and what have you, it's something very, very high on their agenda. I think it's something which is going to play a more relevant part in the industry over the next 5 to 10 years. As we've seen this morning, I don't think it's going to be something quick to implement. The idea of this morning was to give you a flavour more than anything else, a brief introduction. And you've got these gentlemen's contact details, I'm sure, throughout today. If they have whetted your appetite, they will talk to you more about it today, and I'm sure they will be delighted to come to talk to organisations if that's appropriate. Perhaps just open the door a little bit further to see what you think. So that's the seminar part today over. We're a few minutes behind, but I'd like you to join in the new normal way and thanking these guys for this presentation.